Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Jim Doty, correspondent with CNN Interstellar Interplanetary News. I'm here today interviewing the members of the newly formed Space Force USA. And I'd like to begin by asking each of you to introduce yourselves so that the audience can understand a little bit more about Space Force USA. Why don't we begin with you, Colonel Reynolds, Colonel Meredith Reynolds. We have two Colonel Reynolds today.
It's a family kind of affair here. Colonel, I am the Colonel with the Space Force and currently assigned to a secret base that no one needs to know about. We're currently right now in evening, which is why the lighting is so low. We have to conserve power as much as possible to make sure that nothing goes wrong in our environment.
Lieutenant Commander Thayer, and you, where are you right now?
Hello, I'm out in the asteroid belt at Space Force Supply Center. We're a mixed-use base here. We've got a civilian team of scientists, and sometimes we get some tourists through as well. So kind of an exciting little place to be, a little bit military and a little bit fun.
Captain Spurs, what's your location at the moment?
I am currently on the flight deck of the USS Gemini, being the wing commander of the entire ship.
And Colonel Victoria Reynolds.
I am on the moon base. It's somewhere on the moon. You'll never find it. Or we're under the moon.
And Dr. Smith.
Greetings, I'm Dr. Zach Smith and in charge of Section J2 at a research facility out in the asteroid belt area. In addition to gathering information and input from the rest of the panel today, I'll be talking about the Synoptics personal information tracker that I've been working on. And we'll go into more of that later.
So the Space Force is fairly new. It's been recently formed. How advanced now are your facilities? Are they still in construction? Colonel Reynolds, I'm sorry, Colonel Meredith Reynolds. Are they still in construction, or have you moved in fully? What's going on up there?
We are still under construction, hence the power reserves here. We only were able to get enough funding to really full on create the full barracks and base that we want for our forward advancement into the next solar system. So it's still in the building phases. So yes, it's a mix of military and some civilian contractors, but we're full steam ahead here.
From the backdrops for the rest of you, it looks like your facilities are fairly well done at this moment. Is that correct, Dr. Smith?
Yes, it's a small facility. This is the one single large room in the facility. Everybody else is in the cabins right now, just to give me the space for this communication. Okay.
So, Captain Spurs, do you prefer to be referred to as Captain Spurs or Captain Bone? I believe Bone is your real name. Is that correct? Or is Spurs a nickname?
Bone is the last name. Spurs is my call sign.
Oh, okay.
I'm enjoying it by the call.
Okay. What have you done to help mitigate the boredom of space?
Well, we tend to have a lot of poker tournaments and a lot of flight training tournaments because we tend to gamble a little bit on things because you got to have some fun out here as pilots. We're a little bit rogue, we're a little bit wild, but we get it all done.
Colonel Victoria Reynolds, what have you done to mitigate the boredom of space?
We bought a lot of books that we could. Mostly, gosh, we have chess. We're learning chess. It takes a lot of time. You have a lot of time in between moves, so the boredom goes away. A lot of thinking.
Lieutenant Commander Thayer, where do you see Space Force USA going from here? It's in its nascent stages at this time. It's been newly formed. Where do you see it going in the future?
Well, if we can ever crack the code of, FTL, we can be going out past our own solar system. But at this point, definitely full colonization and protection of our solar system here. Because unfortunately, with people starting to come out here and the civilians, we have been having a little problem with, pirates.
Pirates. Dr. Smith, I got the impression that you're an expert in what are referred to as the softer sciences, psychological sciences, and that kind of thing. How are all of your people coping with living in different environments, different gravitational fields, and things of that nature?
Sorry, small communications error there. So far, everybody seems to be doing well. It is an ongoing part of our research out here to determine all these factors and more, which is why we're working on a device that will be able to incorporate and gather the information on everybody's specific well-being. The SPI, the Synoptic Personnel Information Tracker that is part of our funding, is going to be part of the Space Force kit that will go out, and it will show an analysis of each trooper's mental well-being as they're monitored doing their jobs. The aggregate data that comes in from their locations, their jobs, their tasks, their interactions will help maintain the well-being of the Corps in general. And so this information gathering will help us going forward, in addition to everything else that's being done here, as we will be able to tell how well Corps-wide that gambling games or chess or the knitting helps with everybody's well-being.
Tracking their locations?
Yes, within any given facility, it's monitoring where they spend most of their time. Are they depressed and spend most of their time in their rooms? Are they outside seeking, to be isolated from others? Things of that nature.
So I get the impression this SPI, part of it is meant to specifically address the psychological issues of living in space.
Yes, that's its primary function.
How do you address, for those of you in like the asteroid belt where there's no gravitational field to speak of, how do you address the physical needs of exercise, well-being, health? Lieutenant Commander Thayer.
Well, I'm in supply, so I actually help my people, even though I'm, in charge, moving the stores around, and it's still physical work, even though it's, weightless, theoretically. So, less injuries. That's a nice part of moving large amounts of stuff around, is less injuries out here. But just moving as much as we can, of course, in our off time. Stationary bikes and whatever else you're doing. Grab your pad and pull up a book or a movie and pedal away. Because we got to keep moving, unfortunately, as much as possible. And this is a little too still from normal. So after this, I'm going to be really, really busy.
Colonel Meredith Reynolds, you mentioned that you're at a secret facility.
Correct.
What can you tell us about that?
Other than that it's top secret and no one should know about it, not much. It is a forward base. We are out in the middle of the territories, and yes, there is the pesky issue with the occasional attempted raids by those, you know, well, it was mentioned in the news media, so I can say it, space pirates. That's been a bit of an issue, but we do have fine pilots like Captain Bone down there who give them a taste of our military might.
I heard that a rumor was floating around that the space pirates were funded by a wealthy gentleman in Texas. Is that true?
I cannot comment on anything of that nature, but it would not surprise me.
Would not surprise you.
No.
Captain Bone, what's the most difficult part of handling these space pirates?
Sometimes a few of them actually do know their way around a space fighter. But we've handled those pretty well. They have a lot of these ships that they're just hard to take down because they somehow with that guy have got decent shields so that we don't get them real quick.
They've got shields. What do you mean? Are these powered shields of some sort?
They're rudimentary power. They are rudimentary powered shields.
Okay.
They're a bit of a. They kind of help them keep the bullets off them.
Captain Victoria Reynolds, you're on the moon base. Is that correct?
Yes.
Have you had any difficulty with these pirates?
Luckily, we're too close to the Earth for them to even try us. It's easier to get to us with Spurs over there. He can find us quicker. So they have a tendency to leave us alone. Since we are closer to the Earth, we're the one that was completed first.
Are you I would assume you're a little bit better or probably a little bit better supplied than the other bases because the supply lines are so much shorter?
Absolutely. Occasionally when they need supplies, they'll come to us, or they will ask us and we'll send them a supply ship.
So at this point, the ranks of the Space Force USA are still fairly thin. Is that correct? Colonel Meredith Reynolds.
Yes, it's taking us a lot to, you know, recruit for the Space Force. There's a lot who are recruiting, granted, but they have to meet very specific needs and requirements in order to actually go out into space. It's one thing to say, yes, I want to be an astronaut, but there's a lot more to it than that. So getting them past the initial training, and then first they have to get used to the moon base or get used to weightlessness. So there aren't as many, you know, viable candidates for that. And it's taking time, but even so, even with the limited people we have, we're still managing to get those bases and ships built and manned. It's just taking a little longer than we'd like.
Sorry about that. A call from the president.
Ah.
What are some of the physical requirements that take one over and above the normal requirements? What are some of those physical requirements? And I'd like to open that up to general discussion. You know, that anyone who would like to be considered to join the Space Force USA, what are the physical requirements that they'll have to address that they might not be aware of?
I think that's a great question for Dr. Smith.
Beyond the physical requirements that go into any military organization, we need people whose reflexes are fast enough, whose decision-making processes are quick enough and accurate enough not to make decisions. Unlike on Earth, where a slight incorrect decision can result in a small problem, up here it could result into a loss of life as well as the loss of a ship or a base. So we need those people whose minds are agile enough and who have the ability to think on their feet more so than the average person.
And we're hoping no space sickness.
No space sickness.
Yeah, one of the things you've really got to be able to handle the low gravity to no gravity. And if you have too many problems like with vertigo or, you know, anything that's going to throw you off to where you're going to be sick, we really can't have that out here in space. It's really a detriment. So they have to be able to handle floating around and not get disorientated and not get sick. Very important.
As well as not being claustrophobic at all.
Yeah, you can't be claustrophobic.
Dr. Smith, you mentioned the kind of in passing, I think you said something about beyond the normal physical requirements for a military organization. I'm paraphrasing you a little bit there. Are you recruiting mainly from the other branches of the military, or are you, and I'm addressing this to all of you, or are you seeking raw recruits who haven't had any military service before? Do they have a path to membership?
Well, from my point of view, I'm simply a research facility trying to help with the mental aspects of being in space. The recruits and where people are recruited from are better off answered by the other members of the panel.
I'd say because we are a mix of military and construction, that, yeah, we are tapping into civilians, and they do have to meet the rigorous physical aspects of it as well as some of the mental, but have no interest in being in the military side of it. So yeah, we are dipping into any sources that are viable and can meet our standards.
And we should have that boot camp up pretty soon. So yeah, right now we are mostly from the other existing services, and we're looking forward to our first training facility for boot recruits.
Where do you think that training facility will be located?
That should be on the moon.
On the moon.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you'll be training raw recruits from the ground up, no pun intended.
From the dust up.
From the dust up. Are you using civilian contractors? I don't mean.
Unfortunately, we don't have enough Seabees and Army Corps that are qualified. So yeah, we have to actually use civilian contractors as well, especially those with that can acquire high clearances. Like I said, my facility where I'm at, we're actually a mixed use facility anyway. We kind of rode piggyback to do a supply center out here, you know, to help supply the other areas. But the facility I am at is actually a predominantly civilian and a research station. So,
given the long supply chains and lengths of flight, how do you, and again, I'm going to address this to the overall group, how do you anticipate requirements that might be more than a year out? And I say this because the transit time from a moon base to a Mars base could be as much as a year and a half. How do you anticipate things where you've got a round trip of 3 years?
A lot of discussion between myself and Mer. We have to get things set into place, and she's the one that makes up her mind what she needs first, and she's very, very good at that. She's got a lot of foresight, and we trust her decisions.
it's part of what I'm doing out here in the asteroid belt. I'm kind of in between going out further and home. So that's why there's a supply center here, is to help further our reach into into our solar system. So yeah, it's really important. And this also makes us vulnerable to pirates, unfortunately.
Yes, our supply chain is vulnerable in that respect, but we do have several ships that are constantly on the go. So even though it is a year and a half, we have several different ships that are in various degrees and ahead and behind, so that there's like a constant flow. And yeah, those pesky space pirates do like to try and hijack a ship every now and then, but our cruisers are going to take care of that pretty darn soon, I'm sure. And in the meantime, and in the meantime, our scientists are working on the FTL drive and other ways of getting us out faster, which means we're going to attempt to try and capture a few of these space pirate ships in order to analyze what they use for power sources.
You mentioned cruisers, which is a pretty significant military craft. That sounds like some fairly new developments in the technology of warfare, given that it's out in space now, not on the ground or in the ocean. What are some of the differences with the military capabilities of a space cruiser compared to what we might think of as a cruiser on the ocean, on one of the oceans of this planet?
Ooh. Well, they're in space. That is not for me. I'm a base commander, and you know, we did not think to include one of our ship commanders. That was
Prior to coming here, I actually did spend time on one of the ships. Despite the name of cruiser, think of it more of like one of our subs back home. So a little smaller and a little more closed in.
Okay.
So you know, it obviously these are small and fairly agile craft. Our carrier, the Gemini, is the larger one that actually can scramble some planes. As a matter of fact, I wonder if the Gemini ran into trouble because we seem to have lost the captain.
I was wondering that myself.
Yeah.
I wonder if he got called to duty.
He might have. Oh, well, Godspeed to him. Hopefully everything's okay. Well, yeah, these are small, really streamlined craft. And like I said, think of them more like space submarines, but you know, being our smaller ships for attack.
What kind of weapons do they deploy?
Well, right now, because ballistics still actually work in space, ballistics. Yeah, but we have to make sure that it's actually more kind of ice, because really hard ice, because we don't want to mess up the space lanes with debris. So it's pellets of ice that are shot out, and they're actually quite lethal to what they hit in space, because despite the fact you don't look like you're going pretty fast, you're actually still going pretty fast, and the trajectory, once we send it out, it keeps going. So
these weapons are more ballistic weapons as opposed to explosive? Yeah,
they're ballistic.
Okay. What about I'm curious about you said Gemini. Is that the name of the craft, or is that the classification of the craft?
Gemini is the name of the carrier. It's a classification. Artemis is the classification. It's a super carrier.
Okay.
And it is the largest ship we've ever built. And it has a very large crew, and it will, I think it has at least 40 fighters, I think it is. We still have to look on that. That's not one of my better things, but the Gemini is just one of several ships we have.
Okay. Have there been any, what engagements have occurred so far with these pirates? that seem to be a nuisance for you?
Again, Captain Bone would be a better one for that one since he's on the Gemini. There have been some, well, I guess we really can't go into that now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would reveal a bit too much information if you understand what I'm saying.
Top secret.
Yeah, that's pretty much things we can neither confirm nor deny how many or the details.
Yeah, of losses or successes,
Mm-hmm.
or the incursions of these, rabble. Although they are getting sneakier.
You are getting sneakier. Did you say that?
No, they are getting, the
They're
spacecraft is getting sneakier. They're getting more clever.
There's nothing wrong with sneaky if you're fighting sneaky, you know?
Very well said.
We'll send the destroyer.
Send a destroyer. So a destroyer sounds like a larger craft. All right.
Yes, we have the John McCain. Gosh,
It
it's
doesn't
one of
look
our,
When
Pardon me?
I hear destroyer, I think of guided missile destroyers, things of that nature. Is that kind of weaponry they're carrying?
yes, it's kind of hard to have missiles in space, no? It's more of, as she says, it's an ice missile, as it were, I guess you'd call it. And our crew is just tremendous. We, as Colonel Murr, we have quite a few people on there. They are well trained. We've picked the best of the best to man our destroyer, or to person our destroyer, I should say.
I was going to say,
True.
True.
True. Our
destroyer.
Mhm.
Is there anything else you'd like people to know about the newly formed Space Force USA that I haven't covered here?
Well, we would certainly welcome new recruits, or even from the ranks of our other services that would love to come join us out in space to apply. It's a little bit of a hardship, yes. Out here, we've got like a 10 square foot room that you share with another individual. You got a bunk, you each got a desk. So you've got very little space for your personal gear and your uniforms, but there's a little bit of space for you to have a little something to wear outside of your uniform and go have some fun out here, because like I said, we've got some civilians here, so we actually do have an entertainment section out here, but you still have to travel light because there's only so much you can bring. But if you can pack it into your small bag, your space bag, kind of like a old Navy sea bag. Of course, our space bags, they're black instead of the green. Yep, you can get it in there, you can bring it.
Dr. Smith, are you having problems with your transmission? It seems to be
Fluctuating?
looking, yeah.
Yeah, there are some lighting issues here. I think I need to replace some lights on the right-hand side.
Could it be your generator?
I'm familiar with most of our facilities, even the secret ones. Where was your facility again?
We're out
It's
in
secret.
the asteroid belt.
You're where?
In the asteroid belt.
In the asteroid belt where our supply is?
No,
Supply
no.
station?
We're set off to a side. There's a large asteroid that we're planted on. The facility is about 1,000 square feet. This room takes up half of that. There's a crew quarter and a couple of rooms for building prototypes. But beyond that, it's not much else out here.
Huh.
I wanted to ask all of you, given that launching materials from the surface of planet Earth is extremely expensive. Have you done anything along the lines of developing local sources of raw materials out in space? The obvious one is to think of metals and raw iron in the asteroid belt, but it is much more cost effective if you can develop those sources of raw materials up above the gravity well of Earth. Have you done anything along those lines? And I'm not sure who I should address that question to.
I think we're all limited as to the equipment we can bring up. So things such as excavating would be rather difficult.
There are actually, as you said, we can mine these asteroids, and along with the researchers, yes, there are some miners. They're a rowdy bunch. Locally on the station, we actually are doing hydroponics to grow some fresh food. It's a real treat when we get some meat from back home. Otherwise, we're pretty much on a forced vegan diet most of the time. That's the only part I miss. I miss the meat.
I have to agree with that.
I was not aware that you were limited to a vegan diet. Are you completely limited to a vegan diet?
Like I said, every once in a while we get some backpacked meat, and then it's a nice feast. But raising animals on the station is not really ideal, so that's coming from Earth still, especially out here. And we'd have to have a much larger facility and something to where we could keep the smell of raising animals out of the main airways. Lots of enzymes though, because those beans are killing us.
Sounds
well,
like
when they invent mini cows, will be good.
Sounds like you're one step away from living the way they did in the 16th and 17th century, where the ground floor of the house was actually the barn. All right, so let's hope we don't end up reverting to that. Any closing comments from any of you that you might like to make before we?
Yes, Lieutenant Commander Thayer, do you have any of your people out amongst the asteroid belts that might be able to do some scanning? I received an interesting text, and there's some suspicions about activity out there.
Huh.
Space pirate activity.
Oh geez, yeah,
Yeah.
Oh man, I hope not,
boy.
because we were expecting one of our shipments with meat.
Oh
They
no.
found out.
Well, yeah, I'm thinking, can you check and make sure?
Let me.
Ask them to check for signals. I just have this bad feeling.
Yeah. 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 Can you check that? Great. And get back to me right away. I've got somebody checking on that. Oh, I hope not though.
Yeah.
Have we got anybody in the area that can help that?
Do you know where the Gemini is currently? Is it anywhere near you?
I think they were en route for a Liberty.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry, sir. Space pirates take precedence.
Yeah, I believe they were en route to us for Libertyport. Like I said, we've actually got an entertainment area with the civilians here.
So you have a situation happening right now? Is that what's going on?
Yes, I think we need to do this signal override. We need to possibly switch to a different channel if that's possible. Can we do that? Signal. I'm working on it.
No, I think we're good. We're good here.
Wait a minute. What happened to you're not Dr. Zach Smith?
Hey.
What's going on here?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh man, did our call get pirated?
It got pirated.
You've been hijacked.
Yeah,
Oh,
good luck finding the Gemini. It's in battle right now. That's why it's offline.
Yeah, obviously.
damn it. Okay, Victoria, you need to let Earth Command know what's going on. Since you're closer, they'll get the message faster.
Yeah, and we thank you for interviewing us, but yeah, I think we're going to have to cut this interview short because obviously I'm going to go have to scramble the security team here
As do
and see if we
I.
can mitigate damage.
Well, I am
You better
CNN
not get my stakes.
Well,
I know.
I and
Some of those are
CNN
coming to us.
Interplanetary thanks you for your time.
Oh,
Oh, no.
no. Get rid of him. Oh, Command's going to hear about this.
Oh,
They set this
Scramble.
up and they set us up. Ah,
they
well,
definitely said it.
thank you, Mr. Doty, for your,
Yeah,
but we need to take care of this.
And thank you for your time.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ah, pirates.